Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I'm Vandana Mothare, your host for this episode of the podcast series brought to you by Industry Inspired Talks. In part one, we discussed Mr. Pablo's career journey, the opportunities he had, the challenges he faced, being someone who's really truly passionate about technology, but is also passionate about making an impact, making a positive impact in the world. If you haven't watched the episode, please check the link in the description. In part two, we will learn more about the trends, the Microsoft trends of 2021, and we'll also look at how a typical workday looks like in the Microsoft culture. And final career tips from Mr. Pablo for our community who are starting on their career journey. So, loads and loads of value for you all. Let's step right into it. All right. So let's move on to the next section of our interview. Now, you mentioned that you've taken the role of a director now. So, as a director of audience evangelism, what does your typical workday look like?
Well, it's very busy. So I'm still in kind of a transition phase, right? So I'm building my team. I just hired my first employee. I think he started mid-December, and so It's been a month since I've had that employee. And so what's challenging is that for me in general is to let go of things, because I always feel like I can do it better and faster. and I understand it because I've been doing it for so long. Oh. And so one of the things that's been challenging for me is like saying, okay, just passing the baton, saying, okay, you take this from me, and this is yours now, right? And empowering that person to not only take it, but to leave their mark on it and bring their
style and personality.
Yeah. And so that's been challenging. I run the Imagine Cup competition, which is I've been doing that for 6 years now. It's our global competition for students. And 2 years ago, I took over the Student Ambassador program, and there's over 4,000 students in that program. And so they're both of them is a job for one person, and I'm doing both. So, so I do have a team. I have vendors, a team of vendors that help me with both programs, and now I hired my first employee. So right now it's trying to balance keeping the programs running, and now trying to be more strategic and more part of the larger orgs, and being more intentional with the work that we're doing. Like, what is it that these two programs are doing to get us to achieve our goals and to help the students achieve their goals, right? Rather than just kind of the day-to-day execution of the program, it's more of like, how can we up-level this? How can we make this a better experience, a better platform for students, right? So, but typically, lots of meetings, unfortunately. Let me unfortunate, because it doesn't give me a lot of time to get actual work done.
Technical work.
But I love the meetings because that's how I interact with people. And I love interacting with people. So that's important for me. But I do need time to get actual work done. And especially now during the pandemic, working from home, being remote, it's even more important for me to connect with people. And so while I do have a lot of meetings on my schedule, and it's sometimes frustrating, it is an opportunity to connect with others too. So I have to keep that in mind. It's like yesterday I had 8 30-minute meetings in a row.
Wow.
And part of that's my own fault, because I didn't block my calendar, or I accepted them all, or whatever. But it's challenging, it's draining to have that. And it's hard to get other work done. So, but it's finding that balance between being in the deep into the execution of the program and being more strategic and up leveling. And so my days are a combination of both. Right now, it's like a lot of it's execution, but it's also future planning. And the future planning stuff is the best, right? Because you're coming up with, what is the next thing for this program? What's the next thing the next benefit I want to give the ambassadors, or the next cool thing that we want to do with the Imagine Cup? And that's what's so inspiring. But again, even the day-to-day execution, working with the ambassadors, hearing from them, hearing from the Imagine Cup students, that's also inspiring. So I'm very privileged in the role that I have. And I know that it's like 1 in a million like this is the only role like this at Microsoft that I get to interact directly with students, kind of get to have them inspire me to then continue inspiring them, and so
it's amazing.
But it's a combination of meetings, of now that I'm a director, there's a lot more trainings actually, which is awesome. One of the great things about Microsoft, even when you're not a director, there's a lot of trainings that you can do, but now it's a lot of, how do we want to be a director? How do we want to show up with our employees? How do we want to make sure that they feel welcome and that they can bring their whole selves? And I love that. The most recent training I had, the first thing that we talked about was emotional intelligence. And that's, for me, it's just fascinating as a new director at Microsoft, that the first thing in this training for new directors was about emotional intelligence, and it just goes to show like the direction that Microsoft wants to take, and being vulnerable. Like, I never expected to be in a director or anything at Microsoft and talking about being vulnerable, but it's so important, and it's so important to bring your whole self and to be able to have that vulnerability and to be able to express your perspective on what things we're working on at Microsoft.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for walking us through and giving all our viewers the real snippet of what it looks like, because most of the times what we think how it is going to be versus what it really is like way different. And especially the point where you said there are meetings, because a lot of times technical people, like at least engineers, think that they're just going to go and do their work. It's not that. Communication is such an important part of no matter what kind of job that we get into, because unless we're able to communicate and really explain what we're trying to achieve and understand what others are wanting from us, it's not going to work. And emotional intelligence, as you said, thank you again for sharing that. It's viewers, it's no matter where you are, or even if you're starting right now, or to move forward, it's a skill that has to be. You need to have that. If it's in you already, good. Otherwise, you need to continuously keep working on it to be able to show up as a vulnerable leader to then be the model for your team.
Yeah, it was interesting. I started with a new engineering team, and I would join these meetings, and it was always like, let's get to the deck and get through what we need to get through. And I'm like, hey, how's everybody? Like, I want to start doing, how are you doing? How was your weekend? How are you feeling?
Yeah.
And so, like, every meeting I started that way. And it was so fascinating to see, like, they would all come crunch around their computers, and then they would sit and they'd kind of sit back, and, their facial expression would change. And then the whole attitude of the meeting changed, because it was suddenly like, we're all humans around a table. Yes, we have work to accomplish, but we all have so many different things happening in our lives that just take the time and ask a question and make it more personable. I don't want to seem like a robot that only wants to execute. I want to know who these people are as humans, and how they're doing, how they're feeling, especially in the past year during a pandemic and during all the social unrest here in the US. It's been so important to take that time and just ask. And so, in anybody in any role, like, I think has an opportunity to bring that to the table. Like,
absolutely.
There's always a pause before a meeting starts, and it doesn't have to be a director like me that says, hey, how's everybody doing? It can be anybody. And it completely transforms the meeting, because suddenly, people let their guard down, and they know that, we're all humans. And I had people reach out to me afterwards and say, after a couple of weeks of this, and say, you know what, thank you for just asking simple questions about how we're doing in these meetings, and making me feel like I'm important to you, that who I am and where I am is important to you.
It matters more than we know. Absolutely. Thank you for reinforcing that thought that you have to be vulnerable. And also, I love the use of term bring your whole self. It's so important to present all of you who you are. A lot of times people do want to portray a certain part of them, or just I need to be so and so in the role, but I'm so and so otherwise.
Right.
But when you can bring all of yourself, and that's going to serve you and the organization in a much better way. So thank you for sharing that.
We want that diversity of thought and that diversity of perspective. And if you think that the company you work for wants you to be this certain way, then you're working with blinders on, and you're going to try to be what you think they want you to be, right? And the second that you come in with your whole self and you be who you are, you're bringing your own perspective, you're bringing your entire life experience with you, that has all kinds of, like, you're the only person who knows who you are and what you've been through, and that's everybody, right? Everybody has a different story. So bringing that additional perspective is what we're looking for and what we need, and what all companies should be looking for and needing. We don't want everybody to be working with blinders on it just to get one task done, and so it's super important for me, at least on my team, and for Microsoft, it's the way that they want us to work is to be able to do that.
Beautiful. Thank you. All right. So now moving on to the next question. What are the best Microsoft trends to be looking out for in 2021 or in the coming years, for that matter?
I mean, there's so much. I don't even know where to begin. Like I found out that we invested in a driverless car company with GM for the driverless car program. I mean, there's so much going on in technology today. It's so funny because my entire life, I've always been on the bleeding edge. Like everybody comes to me to find out, like, what's new, what's the best, what's trending. Now my kids, like, they know.
You have to
they don't know yet, but I can see that happening. Like they're just, technology is part of our lives day in and day out. When I was their age, it wasn't. And so it's going to change things. So, but for me, I think that the most important thing is ethics in AI. Yeah, AI is important. It's very important. But it's really the ethics around AI and the biases that can not intentionally, but end up in artificial intelligence that are actually detrimental to it, right? And so I think to me that if I could kind of wipe the slate clean and start somewhere right now, that's where I would want to be, because technology is changing so quickly, and it's so hard to look at it from the approach of like, what are the ethics around this, right? Are we doing this the right way? Is this are we doing this with biases? How will this impact other people in other countries, and of other backgrounds? And so that to me, I think is probably super important. And also because, it's only something a human can do, right? And so, how AI is going to get better, machine learning is getting better, but only a human right now can really bring that perspective of ethics and bring that thought process into technology. And so it's really important, I think, for everybody, and not only just with AI, but just in technology in general, especially, you see how it's being used and to mislead people, misinformation, and, all these, fake videos, and it's going to get crazier, and we all have to have the right perspective, and those especially working in technology need to bring that perspective with them and want to use technology for good, right? So that's, for me, that's probably what I would chase after.
Wonderful. I'm sure people are taking notes already that what is it that they need to be watching out for in the coming years. Now, there's one question that I had in mind. What is your mindset when it comes to choosing or redefining your career path? Because you kept doing it all through your career. You're changing years. So what's the mindset strategy?
But everything for me was about having impact, always. And so I'll even say, even going to work for the car company was about having an impact. The impact was me having fun, doing something that I love. And so, but outside of that was kind of the one thing that wasn't about empowering other people. It's always about having an impact for me. And so, it goes like when I was a kid, when I was 12, I had an impact on 4 authors, but really, thousands of this company had 1,000 employees, and I'm sure that they eventually adopted the technology that I showed them how to use in a wider range, right? But then working for the nonprofit, it was, the tens of thousands of students that we impacted. Then working as a technology account manager at Microsoft, it was the the hundreds of thousands of people that the companies that I empowered with the work that we did. And now with the student programs, it's, the tens of thousands of students that participate in the Magic Cup and the millions that watch it, right? I think we had over 8 million people watch the live stream of the Magic Cup last year, knowing that they're seeing Microsoft empower students to create these amazing solutions. It's just, it's mind-boggling to me, but it's, they see that, and that's part of the work that I'm doing. And then for the student ambassadors, it's exponential, because for each ambassador that inspires their community, they will hopefully go out and inspire more, and it just turns into this exponential thing. So it's like, I don't even know, yes, we have a number. Yeah, there aren't. And what's amazing is just seeing how it's growing. In this last cohort, we just announced in January, the newest cohort of ambassadors, 11 new countries joined the program for the first time. 11.
That's amazing.
And we already had 85 countries. So now, It's just
96.
mind blowing to me that it's just growing so much, and that we're having that impact in all these countries, and giving these opportunities to students in all these different countries. So for me, it's always about impact. And so it's, now it's probably changing a little bit, because right now it's my impact on the ambassador and Imagine Cup programs. But now as I become a people manager, it's my impact on that employee so they can have an impact on their programs, right? So it even has potentially a wider impact potential. So, and then of course, impact on the company itself, right? How can I impact the direction of the company, or the direction that we're going as people managers, or as a company, right? So
yeah, that's so inspirational. That's amazing. And was there a point in your life when you connected the dots and you realized that it's always been about impact? Because many a times people don't know.
Yeah, and so I would say I left college and I was a systems administrator, and I did that for a couple of years and I liked it, but it wasn't something I was like, did I want to just answer support calls and fix computers like my whole life? No, I knew that, and so I kind of had to take a step back and say, okay, what am I passionate about, right? And at that time, if you asked anybody that knew me, what I was passionate about was cars and computers, right? And so I'd already kind of done the computer thing, and so this opportunity came up in Detroit to work in the automotive industry, and so I gave it a shot, right? And it was fun. I really enjoyed it, but that's when I realized, like, yes, it was fun, but I need to do something that has a greater impact.
There you go.
I felt like, selfish is probably not the right word, but I felt like I was doing it only for me. It was fun just for me, and then for the few people that could afford the cars that we made, but it wasn't having that larger impact. And to rewind a little bit, I actually went to a Jesuit high school, and the Jesuits are very much about helping others, right? And so that was a lot of my high school experience was having this kind of ingrained in, like, how do you help others? How do we have an impact? And so, and my parents as well, they volunteered a lot. They were very much about giving back to the community. And so that was always kind of part of my background and who I am. And so that's the moment when I realized, like, hey, I'm driving, a multi-million-dollar prototype supercar on a test track in the desert. Like, I had chills. I have chills thinking about it today. But ultimately, what is that doing? Who am I impacting? And whose life am I changing with this? Yes, some rich guy that can afford this is going to have a lot of fun driving it. I'm having a lot of fun driving it.
Sure.
But, I've been blessed and privileged to be able to travel the world and see poverty in South America and see poverty in India and in Southeast Asia. And, working on an expensive sports car is not going to change that, right? And so, uplifting students, giving them a platform to succeed, being at a company like Microsoft, which is actively trying to make those changes and give people across the world opportunity, that's where I can have an impact.
It's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for taking the journey that you did, because it did affect millions. With that, coming to the final question, what would be your words of motivation for those entering into their career journeys now?
Don't give up. Like, you have to find that passion, find that nugget, find what is that thing, that your story, right? What is it that part of your story? Why do you like technology, right? What is it that excites you about technology? And bring that with you when you're looking for a role. Bring that with you when you write your individual resume for that specific role, because you have to do that. and for the interview, right? We all have a story. Find out what that is and own it, and bring it with you. And when you're looking at roles, figure out how your story connects to that role, because that, I think, is almost more important than if you check out all the boxes, is what about your story connects to that role or that company, and how can you tell that so they want you, right?
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Pablo, for sharing all that you shared. I'm sure our audience gained a lot from this session. Your journey is truly inspirational. I mean, the kind of work that you've put in and the way you've been connected to your true self and brought in your authenticity to your entire career journey, it's really motivational. And thank you for being an example for all the students. I'm sure most of them watching might have been either a part of your program already, or would be looking you up already now that how to become a part of it. And
I hope they do.
and actually to even know that there are such roles, it's also an eye-opener, because people look at technology companies to be having only technical roles, and yours, though it is about technology, but it is bringing in all of your your values of making an impact and bringing in your people skills. So thank you for sharing that, because I'm sure that is going to bring in a lot of going to get things more moving or rolling in people's head, that, oh, I didn't think about this earlier and I can probably apply for. So I do
want to say one more thing. I know that I come from a place of privilege. My dad's a doctor. I grew up with a lot of opportunity, but don't let that stop you. Like I said, you got to find those incremental steps. What is that ultimate goal? Don't make it impossible. Like CEO of a company, like I don't know, like I'm not sure if that'll ever be my goal either. But like, what is that? Like, what company do you want to work for, and why do you want to work for them? And what are those incremental steps that you need to take to get there? And who can help you with those steps, right? This journey is not something you have to do on your own, right? Find people, mentors, parents, university professors, high school teachers. That knows your story, can help tell your story, help you understand your story and connect it to that next role. When I tell my story, I always it seems like kind of weird. Not weird. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it's just like I got to work for this company in Detroit to drive supercars. Like it's just kind of like this unattainable thing, right? And what I'm trying to say is that I recognize I come from a place of privilege, and that your viewers may not feel like any of that is attainable for them. But my point is that if you take those incremental steps, if you figure out what it is, you connect your story to it, you can be anything.
Absolutely. And about your car story, actually, all your friends at that point in time must be looking up at you like a hero. You're having the long hair and driving those cars and working on the most updated systems. That's like a heroic position to be in at that stage. You were like 20 something, and then having the courage to take the next step, still drop everything that you have and go for what really calls you. That's courageous. So having that courage it's again really inspiring.
You have to recognize it. You have to listen to that voice in your head, right? Mm-hmm. It's there for a reason. But also don't let it give you too much, fill you with fear either. Mm-hmm. And thinking that you can't do it. Because really any of us can achieve anything. We just have to look at those incremental steps to get there.
Absolutely. Once again, thank you so much for your time today.
Problem.
Really appreciate it.
My
and we
pleasure.
wish you all the very best in your new role, and may you achieve even bigger roles and make a bigger impact.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you are watching the video and took heaps of value from it, please hit the like button. And please also subscribe to our channel. We will also share Mr. Pablo's details in the description box. So feel free to check it out and get in touch with him if you have any questions or need any assistance with the Microsoft Student Partner Programs. We will see you all in the next episode of podcast series, where we bring inspiring people who are ready to share their real life experiences and their story, so as to help you move forward in your career journey ahead. So keep learning, keep growing, and keep inspiring everybody around you. All the best.
Bye.